to tell them apart. These guys are significantly larger. They're about 2.5 times the size of the smaller three-toed sloths. These guys also tend to be more of this kind of tan caramel brown color, whereas the other guys are more of that charcoal gray color, and they have that mask that most people are very familiar with. And then these guys are the only ones that you're ever going to really see in captivity outside of Costa Rica because of the fact that these guys, as she's showing off, can eat a mix of vegetables as well as leafy greens, whereas the smaller guys can pretty much exclusively eat 3 plants that only grow in Costa Rica. So if you can't grow those plants, it's really hard to keep them in captivity.
How big are the littler ones?
They're about half the size,
I mean, like
if not a little bit. I mean,
half of that one?
about that.
They're little.
So yeah, they're much smaller. But other than that, sloths,
Can you see?
very interesting. They're completely designed for a lifestyle of hanging upside down in the trees. Sloths only go down onto the ground about once a week to go to the bathroom. Because they only go once a week, they can lose up to 1/3 of their body weight each time they do go to the bathroom. So the reason they go down so infrequently is because they are very vulnerable to predators when they are on the ground. And that's because, like I said, everything about them is designed to hang upside down. All of the muscles in their arms and their chest are built for the pulling motion and not the pushing motion. So when they're down on the ground, they can't hold themselves upright. They actually have to kind of more drag themselves. So that's where they're going to be really slow moving, and that's why they're going to be very vulnerable. If you look even closer, the muscles in their hands are also designed kind of the opposite of ours. So this is a relaxed hand, and it requires energy to open the hand up. So that's going to make it so that they're not accidentally letting go of the branches and falling out of trees just because they get a little tired. So no for that one. The organs in their body are also flipped in the opposite direction. So when a sloth is pregnant, they actually carry the baby more toward their back rather than toward their stomach. And then the hair on their body also grows from the stomach toward the back, whereas with pretty much every other animal, it's going to grow the other direction. Their hair is not necessarily here to keep them warm because they are from the Amazon rainforest, so they are in a very hot, humid climate. It's not there to keep them warm. It is instead there to help keep the rain running down and off of their body so that they're not just constantly soaking wet. So their hair is much more wiry than it might look.
Yeah, it doesn't look soft.
Yeah, it's not super soft. It's made more for kind of keeping that water running down and off of their body. But because their hair is constantly drenched and wet, it's not uncommon for these guys to actually grow different mosses and funguses on their back, and that helps them to blend in pretty perfectly up in the treetops as well.
And that's normal?
Yep, that is very normal.
Do they sleep upside down?
They do sleep upside down. They sleep about 20 hours a day, and it's going to be hanging upside down from a tree. They'll do kind of what she's showing you guys right now, where they'll find a nice solid branch to lean their back up against, but they're still going to keep at least one hand holding on to something above them at all times. Yes.
What are their predators like in the wild?
So their two main predators are going to be jaguars and harpy eagles. However, if a sloth is on the ground, because they are so vulnerable down on the ground, pretty much any carnivore is going to take advantage of the situation. But harpy eagles and jaguars are the two that they have to worry about the most. So if anybody got a good look at her right then, she looked like she had something stuck in her mouth. I don't know if anybody has ever tried to eat upside down, but it is very difficult. Gravity is not on your side. So because of that and the fact that they do eat upside down, sloths have an 8-inch long tongue that rather than sticking out 8 inches can go down into their throat 8 inches, and that's able to dig food out of their throat. So it's virtually impossible for a sloth to choke. It's a fun fact because sometimes she'll, look like something's a little stuck and I stand here and don't do anything about it and people get alarmed, and it's because she's got a handle all on her own. We don't need to worry about it. They do have some pretty impressive fangs as well. I'm not sure if anybody's going to get a good look at them because of the way that she's kind of positioned herself right now. But sloths do not have the front 4 teeth in their mouth. They only have they've got 2 huge sets of fangs on the top and bottom, and then they've got tiny little teeth in the back. They're born with all of their teeth, so the absence of the front 4 teeth allows them to be able to nurse, but then also start eating solid foods at about a week old. So they're able to kind of get the best of both worlds in that situation. Yes.
Do they like humans? Like, would they let you pick them up?
No, they do not like to be picked up. So because everything about them wants to be hanging from a tree, and you want that nice sturdy tree because that's what you're relying on to stay safe, you don't want to fall. The feeling of being held upright on a person that's moving and not a solid tree is very uncomfortable for them, and they do not like it. So Jenny here likes her keepers, and she tends to be a little bit on the friendly side as long as she has food in her mouth. But even, even us, we try to keep her mouth occupied if we have to do anything with her, because they do have those very sharp teeth, and if they wanted to bite, it would hurt very, very badly. So they're definitely not one that we ever pick up. So if we need to move them, they actually enter into a dog crate, and then we can pick up the dog crate and move them that way.
Do they scratch?
Um,
Sorry, no, it is okay.
Does their arms ever get tired from hanging all day?
So they do sleep and they will rest up against things, so I'm guessing probably yes, their arms do get tired, but because of the fact that the muscles in their hands are that different way than ours, so that they have to use energy to open their hand up, even if they are tired, they're not going to accidentally let go of the tree branch.
Oh, because closed is the relaxed.
Mm-hmm. So they don't have to be putting in any energy to hold on tight to something.
Do they scratch?
Yes. So, out in the wild, they have been known to disembowel jaguars with their claws. So they can defend themselves.
Bowel, what is the
They'll,
last hurt?
They'll slice open the tummy and let all of the innards fall out. Because they might look so cute and cuddly, and everybody thinks of them as this nice, slow, lazy animal. And they definitely are, in some sense, but when you live out in the jungle like they do, you also have to make sure you're willing and able to defend yourself if you need to. So they certainly can, and they certainly will. Sloths are also solitary animals. So if you look at our sign, there's no name for a group of sloths, and that's because that does not exist. They want nothing to do with each other, and they're actually very territorial. So if you have especially two males that are in too much of a close proximity, they will fight and it will get pretty violent. So that's why all of our sloths are separated and in different exhibits, and we don't put them together, because that's how they would prefer it.
They don't even like their family?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. So when a mom sloth gives birth to a baby, that baby's got 1 year for her to take care of it. After that year, she's going to kick it off, and she wants nothing to do with it. And if it tries to hang around, she will get more forceful with the exit. So they get that 1 year of parental care, and then after that, they're on their own. So my mom's over here, so thank you for not doing that to me, because
Oh, sorry, Rita. I heard they can swim.
they can swim. So swimming for them is something that they are capable of doing, but it's not something that they enjoy or necessarily seek out doing. If you were to think of the jungle and an animal that's going to rely on tree canopies to get from place to place, they don't want to go down onto the ground. The only natural thing that's ever going to separate two major parts of the forest is going to be rivers and other waterways. So they did evolve to have the ability to swim, because in dire situations where they need to get from one side to the other, that would be the naturally occurring obstacle that they would be facing. So they're capable of swimming because it allows them to move about their environment. However, it's not like if we put a pool in here, she would do anything at all with it. They don't enjoy it. It's not like a fun time, relaxing activity. It's more of just a necessary function for them to be able to kind of move about their environment.
Looks like they could swim.
I know. Seeing them down on the ground at all is very uncomfortable. I always say, a sloth on the ground looks like something like some creature you'd imagine crawling out from under your bed. It's very
Oh, yeah.
it is, they're so adorable upside down, but when you flip it over, it is not the same. It looks very, very different. Yes.
Is she full grown, or will she get bigger?
She is full grown. Jenny here is actually 18 years and 10 months old. So they will live to be about 30 years old. So she is very much a full-grown individual. She's had about 5 different babies. So she's a mom. She's, completely full-grown adult.
Babies in the zoo?
So she's got one that's still here at the zoo. This zoo. The others have been sent to other facilities. So the sloth that's in the lower sloth exhibit is her son Perry, and he's about 5 now.
He's big.
Mm-hmm. So they get to be about full-grown by the time that they're 3 years old. No.
Are the males bigger than the females?
No.
About the same?
Yep, right about the same. If anything, the females tend to be slightly larger.
But that's that other one down there.
Yeah, he is a big guy. But I'd still say he's probably a little bit smaller than her. Any other questions from anybody?
So cool.
Sure you don't want it? No? Yes.
Does he weigh a lot?
So I think last time we weighed her, which keep in mind, like I said, because they only go to the bathroom once a week, they can lose up to 1/3 of their body weight each time they go to the bathroom. So weighing them is a really difficult task, because it's hard to know exactly in their digestive cycle where they are. I believe the last time we weighed her, she was about just under 20 pounds. Yeah. So again, if you were hanging from the trees all day, even though your hands are designed to kind of keep you up there, you definitely don't want to weigh too much. Yep. It's a lot of hair. It's definitely a lot of hair. You want any more?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
There you go. Yes. Any other questions from anybody? How smart is she? She's she's definitely not the smartest animal we have here, but I also wouldn't say she's the dumbest. So she sits somewhere in the middle. She doesn't know many tricks, but you know, she's been taught a few things. She knows how to target sometimes to an open hand. So if I was to, she's busy right now, so I'm not even gonna try it, but plus she ate all her food, so I've got no reward. But if you hold your hand out with an open palm and you ask her to target, most of the time she'll go and touch her nose right to your palm, and that way she's kind of trained to go around the enclosure where you want her to be without having to force her. She can do it by herself when you ask her to. So I would consider that, you know, pretty smart of her.
Have she ever fighted another one?
We don't let her be near any of the other ones, so she hasn't gotten a chance to, so hopefully she never will. But I'm sure if something were to happen, she would if she had to. But Jenny's pretty relaxed. It's Perry who's got the attitude. He'd be the one I'd be worried about.
Is it only those two sloths here?
We also have her little husband as well. He's inside right now just because the whole bringing them in and out process, and we had the hurricane and everything that came through. So we moved him inside. We didn't want to stress him out by moving him back out immediately. Kind of gave him some time to settle in before we bring him back out. He usually goes in with the marmosets over in front of the Earth building right there.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he goes in that one
Mhm.
with the marmosets?
Yep.
So
Yep.
he doesn't mind those?
Nope. No, so they're only territorial with other sloths. They coexist with plenty of other species out in the wild, especially tiny little
They
monkeys.
don't live together.
Mm-mm.
That's what I was saying, like, they don't even
They
like their
only,
family.
Yeah, they
only
don't.
breed.
They don't, yep. So, yep, and then we have another young female sloth that we recently acquired that is going to potentially, hopefully, be a mate for Perry. Once she gets a little bit more comfortable kind of here. We don't have her on display yet because we're kind of relationship building with the keepers and everything like that before we put her through the stress of being out on display. So we do technically have her. She'll probably be out on display next year.
you
But
have
for now,
four sloths.
yes.
How do you get them to like each other enough to mate if they don't want to
So
be around each other?
it's a lot of us reading the room, of
Okay.
understanding their hormonal kind of behavior,
yeah.
and then
When
it's
they're
like a
ready?
yeah. So there are certain signs that you can tell when they might potentially be interested. Especially the only time we'll ever put them together is during the winter, because it's a lot easier for us to tell if they're interested in potentially encountering one another, because we move them indoors and they have indoor enclosures that are much closer to each other. So they're still
I
not
see.
in with each other, but they're within the like same large room.
So then you might be able to tell
Yeah, so
that
you
they-
can tell like
that
if
is
they're,
interesting.
you know, receptive to the idea of one of the other ones that's in there.
Yeah.
Okay. But other than that, they're, you know, they're kept completely separate. And still, even in a situation like that, you know, keepers would
Like,
be,
keep an eye on
yes, yeah, we would not ever leave them.
So interesting.
Yeah,
What's her favorite food?
corn.
Corn?
Her favorite food is corn. Yep, she got her corn with her breakfast,
Yep,
so it's
yep,
on the
that's
ground
really
where she's
nice.
finished it.
Oh, she gets a cob and she eats the corn off it?
Yep, she holds it like this and she eats it the same way most people do.
I eat it when it's stripped off.
All right, any more questions from anybody before I head out? Yes.
How many like meals or like snacks does she have a day?
She gets fed twice a day. Good question.
Do they drink a lot of water?
They do not drink a lot of water. So because they're not going down onto the ground very often, they don't drink a lot of water. Most of the water that they need, they're going to get because they're eating lots of vegetables and leaves. So there's high water content in those vegetables and leaves. So they're just going to kind of eat a ton of those, and that's going to be their water. They also, we mist them regularly. I don't do it while I've got people here because I don't want to accidentally spray someone. But we mist them regularly, and sometimes we'll mist their food down so that there's kind of like a light, watery outside. She has a food bowl or a water bowl up here, but I've never once seen her drink out of it. But we do put an elevated one up high so that she doesn't have to go onto the ground to drink water, so that if she wanted to, but that's just not one of their natural behaviors, so they very rarely do. All right, folks, I'm gonna head on out, but enjoy watching her. No problem.